Over the last few months, I've talked about the equipment I use, how I clean records, and the records themselves. I've even done episodes or, single episodes on the different accessories. I thought it'd be a good idea to bring all of my accessories together in one episode, at least those that I currently use at the beginning of a new year, being right now. So there's not many, but there's a little bit more than you might think. When I talk about what I consider essential tools for vinyl record playback, I'm not talking about the equipment, at least not today. I'm not talking about turntables. I'm not talking about amplifiers or phono stages or preamplifiers or speakers. I'm not even talking about cables or power supplies. When it comes to vinyl record playback, it has its share of enemies. And one of those enemies is static electricity. It's actually probably one of the biggest enemies. And your stylus knows it. As your stylus tracks through the groove, that is the result of all those little pops and hisses you hear. For the most part, it's the static electricity. To combat this, I use the Zerostat anti-static gun before I play a side. I did an entire video on this, which you should be able to click above. Hey, the click worked this time. I've done this 3 different times and the click never happened, so you didn't see it, but I edited it. Can't talk. Edited it. It's gone. I said it's essential, and it is essential to me, especially with 180 gram records. Now, I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm planning an entire video on this, and I'm researching it right now. But it's really weird. I'm telling you, it's strange. So, moving on. Is it a pain to hit the record with the Zerostat every time I play a side? Well, yeah, it was. But as with anything else, the more you do it, it becomes habit. Now it's just a routine, and half the time I'm not even thinking about it when I pull this out to zap a record. Now let's move on to the second one that I consider essential and that I use every single time. And it has nothing to do with static. It has everything to do with another enemy. Might even be a greater enemy, but that's debatable. And I'm talking about vibrations. Not only does your stylus pick up static, it also picks up every single vibration, and it has no idea what kind of vibration it is. It could be a vibration that's meant to be there, like wiggling through the groove, or it could be a vibration from the motor or slippage or any number of things. So the trick is to reduce those vibrations so that your stylus is only picking up the good ones. I would cue the Beach Boys' Good Vibrations right now, but can't. So to help reduce those, you need a record weight or a record clamp. I did a video recently on both of these, my Bren 1 record weight and also my Record Doctor clamp. If you want to learn a little bit more about them, just click the link that's up above. I almost just dropped this. So we've battled and hopefully reduced or eliminated vibrations and static. What else is there? How about dust and lint? There's no escaping it. And if you don't believe me, just look at a sunbeam. You're going to see a bunch of dust in that. And if you don't see any dust in a sunbeam, well, you probably live in a vacuum. And if you live in a vacuum, well, you're not going to hear the music anyway. Even a small bit of static electricity remaining on the record after hitting it with this is still going to attract dust. So to get rid of dust, you need a way to brush it all away. So for that, well, I just said it, brush it all away. Yeah, you need a brush. A good record brush. I use the AudioQuest AntiStatic Brush, and the anti-static in the name doesn't mean that it brushes away the static, but what it does mean is that it doesn't add to the static as you run it over the vinyl. If it did add to the static, then it would be negating everything that this guy did, and we can't have that. So basically, this removes the dust, it removes the lint, and does not add static. Now that covers everything I use every time I play a record. How about those things, there's 2 more, those 2 more things that I use every few times. One of these might surprise you, it might even horrify you. So I'm going to move on to the one that won't, and that's the stylus brush. You will hear some folks recommend using this little guy every single time you play a record, and you can do that. It's not going to hurt anything at all. I use it, I would say, every 2 to 3 times that I play a record, and that's because my records, I try to keep them incredibly clean, so I don't usually need to use this, but it's still something you want and it's essential. This is the one I use, and it's called the dry brush because it doesn't use any fluid on the bristles. Once a month, I'll even use the magic eraser, which I did a video on up above somewhere here. The last essential accessory I want to go over is a strange one, admittedly so. It is one I started using about a year ago because of another problem I kept running into, especially with new pressings. And the problem is the size of the spindle hole. In all the years I've been collecting records, I don't think I ever had the problem I've been having recently, and that's being able to comfortably put the record over the spindle. And it doesn't happen with my old records, only with new ones. And I know it's not my turntable, only because it happens no matter which turntable I'm using, and I have a couple of them. I would say it happens maybe every third or fourth record, and especially so with 180 gram records. Man, those things are a problem. I don't get it. I sincerely do not get it. But since I have to deal with it, I use this.
Oh no, not that!
Yeah, did you cringe? I cringe every time I use it. I used to use a pencil to open the hole, and the pencil just took too long. If the hole was too tight, it took too long. I was getting impatient, and I'd end up cursing it. And I found that this screwdriver, the diameter of it is perfect for the spindle hole, but you have to be careful. You have to do it gently, and it's not for the squeamish, because there is such a thing as the hole being too big. If it's too big, it's going to ruin your sound, and that's an unsolvable problem. So I gently wiggle this thing around, and the problem is solved. But I wish it was a problem I really didn't have to solve. Now, with all of that covered, I turn it over to you. What are the tools that you find essential? What things do you use maybe every single time you play a record back, or every other time, or every 2 times, or every 6 months? Whatever the case may be. I'd love to hear from you. Keep the conversation going, and I'll learn from you, and as will those that are watching this video in the comments. So thank you. And as always, I appreciate that you're here and that you're taking the time to watch me and watch all of this craziness, especially this one. So until next time, please take care of yourself and enjoy your records. And I found that this little guy had the very perfect screw top that I can't talk today. Planning a whole new video on it. So moving on, but it does pick up every little bit of static electricity. Wow.